You'll notice in the bulletin there, the announcements and so on. You can look down through there. One thing you'll notice, December 6th, the adult white elephant gift exchange, there's not a location designated yet. The reason is we don't have anybody yet that has said, hey, we want to have that at our house this year. If not, we've had it here at the church, and that's fine too. But if there's somebody that wants to do that, let us know, because we need to get that in the bulletin soon. Okay, Zechariah 5. And I'm actually going to take it back to 4 at the very end of it here first. After Sunday school last week, Keith came up and he was telling me something, showing me something that I had, though I've seen it before, I hadn't thought about it in preparing this time, and I was like, oh, that's right. And I want to show you because I think this is really, really good. If you jump back in Zechariah 4 for a moment, notice verse 7. Who are you, O great mountain? Before Zerubbabel you shall become a plain, and he shall bring forth the capstone with shouts of grace, grace to it. This is about Zerubbabel, all right? But it's about God's promise that they would build the temple. They would complete it. Remember, they had stopped because of opposition. It was not done. So we have here further promise that it's going to get done. I mentioned capstone in the verse, and then I went right to cornerstone. And then I jumped to my next point. Cornerstone is literally, if you can picture this for a second, I'll come back to the other. Notice, if you would, I forgot to, let's see, is that down here? Can't remember now how to make it full screen here. Right here? Oh, this one. Ah, okay, all right. Make it a little bit better. But if you'll notice up there, you see the guy laying that cornerstone there. There's a foundation that's laid, and then as you start to build your walls up on your foundation, if there's block involved especially, you lay that down and they will literally put this cornerstone in. They'll go over, sometimes they'll put that cornerstone in, run a line both ways trying to make that square with the foundation. Then they'll also put a level on, try to make sure that it is perfectly plumb, level, square, because everything is built off that. Everything runs from there to the rest of the building. To the right here, the AD 1922, sometimes you'll see what some will call a cornerstone, but it's not at the bottom. It's kind of somewhere up where it was easy to read because it's a ceremonial cornerstone. And the idea is they're showing something like, in this case, the date. Sometimes it's an inscription. I looked at one picture. I said, oh, that would be good. It was from Church of the Latter-day Saints. So I said, maybe we won't use that one. But it actually was a pretty good picture of what this cornerstone might be, even ceremonial-wise. So the cornerstone is crucial in the building of the building. Then you'll notice this one is kind of interesting in the sense that they show the cornerstone. Then they show something called a keystone, which again, if you're building an arch, have you ever thought about that? How in the world do they get this arch to stay together? You know, as they come up, they build both sides up together, and as it starts to slant, they got to get that piece in. That piece, the way that's made, that piece is holding that thing all together. And then, right above, you see this capstone. All right? So go back to that first one I had. Long line of, somebody put a capstone. That's kind of decorative there. Something Keith mentioned last week. How many have had... you've been in a house where you've had the rock wall, not block, but rock, stone wall. Okay. Sometimes they'll have layers of that coming up together or columns of that coming up together, and that capstone not only finishes it nicely, but it ties it together as well. It's kind of interesting. anything to add there with how that's done, Keith? Does that make sense, what I'm saying there? Now, picture this. Who's the foundation stone, according to the New Testament, the cornerstone? Jesus Christ. Here, when you see this mention of capstone, you may not immediately think of Christ, but here's something interesting. Look at Ephesians chapter 2 for a moment. Turn over to Ephesians chapter 2. Look at verse 19. Now, therefore, you are no longer strangers and foreigners, but fellow citizens with the saints and members of the household of God, having then built on the foundation of the apostles and prophets, Jesus Christ himself being the chief cornerstone, in whom the whole building, being fitted together, grows into a holy temple in the Lord, in whom you also are being built together for a dwelling place of God in the Spirit. Turn the page and go to Ephesians 5. In the section that has to do with marriage, we see an interesting picture. So Ephesians 5, and look at verse 25. Husbands, love your wives just as Christ also loved the church and gave himself for her. Why? That he might sanctify. What's that mean? Set apart. Okay, set apart from the world, Satan's kingdom into God's kingdom, all right? And cleanse her with the washing of water by the word. Why? That he might present her to himself a glorious church, not having spot or wrinkle or any such thing, but that she should be holy and without blemish. Isn't it interesting? He's the foundation that we build on, but what's he doing? He's getting to that point where, like the capstone, the church is presented to God, to himself, glorious, without spot, without wrinkle. I went back to this picture because it's really neat how the capstone actually ties that all in together, makes it look really nice, finishes it off well. What's interesting, that's what Christ is doing in the church. So even though capstone here is reference to the fact that Zerubbabel would actually lay the capstone of the temple, showing that it's finished, it would ultimately speak of God's promises being fulfilled, done as it should be, and in a sense, looking ahead, speak of the foundation stone, the cornerstone, also being the capstone. He is the foundation and he is the finisher. What a blessing to see that there. And again, I had flown by there, so Keith came up and mentioned that, and I thought, oh, that's so good, I got to come back. So I actually remembered to find these pictures here for you. Now, back to Zechariah. I want to come to chapter 5. I don't have, you'll kind of see why probably, but I don't have pictures of the next one, though we will use this again in the morning service. But the flying scroll. Probably most of us know what a scroll looks like. I could have gotten a picture of that pretty easily, I'm sure. But when you think about a scroll, often there would be almost like a dowel with a knob, I don't know what else to call it, maybe decorative or not, on the end. And this scroll would be wrapped around it. Sometimes you would have two, so you'd have each end, and it would unroll, okay? The average scroll that they have found, typically, and I'm sure that was not exact, but typically around 15 feet. So if you picture that, I think these pews are 13. So if you picture when you unroll the whole scroll, it's out here somewheres, okay? And what is it full of? Writing, okay? It's something that they would do. Now this picture is, quite different. We find again the setting, Zechariah is receiving miraculously a vision. And there's an angel that's been kind of working with him throughout all this. So same situation here. Then I turned and raised my eyes and saw there a flying scroll. Forgive me, but all I could think about for some reason was the flying carpet. Right? Yeah, okay. I've lost the name of the... Aladdin, there we go. You know, the cartoonish movie there. That's all I could think of when I saw this. It's similar in the sense that this thing is fully extended. By the way, it's 15 feet by 30 feet. Does that ring a bell at all? I admit I didn't think of this myself. That's the exact proportion of the tabernacle. Maybe there's something connected there, maybe not. I kind of think there probably is. For example, what did the tabernacle show Israel? God's presence. That is the key. That tabernacle became the presence of God. It also became the place of intercession, because they would bring their sacrifices to the priest. The priest would then take it and do the sacrifice and then present that to God for the individual. What a beautiful picture of Jesus Christ, our great high priest, who intercedes on our behalf by even dying on the cross for our sin. And now being that gateway, so to speak, so that heaven is open for us to be able to talk directly to God. Now, when you think about this, though, and you think about the scroll, he says, what do you see? I answered, I see a flying scroll. Its length is 20 cubits and its width 10 cubits. So basically 30 by 15. Then he said to me, this is the curse that goes out over the face of the whole earth. Think about blessing and curse. And what does it make you think of? It's kind of ironic. Again, we're going to be talking about it in the morning service. What's that? The Mosaic covenant, the covenant that was made, explained that there would be blessing for obedience, cursing for disobedience. When they were entering the promised land, again, Moses rehearses it for them again and says, here is what's going to be. If you vow to follow God, you've got the blessing and the obedience. Remember that Joshua says, as for me and my house, what did he say? We will serve the Lord. This was part of that. This was all in that context. I'm committing to do what God said I should do. Well, here we have this. He says this is the curse, you might say judgment, that goes out over the face of the whole earth. Every thief shall be expelled, according to this side of the scroll, and every perjurer shall be expelled, according to that side of it. So individuals that are taking from others what is not theirs, and individuals that are lying. These are the individuals that are going to be expelled. Expelled from what? Remember, they're newly back into the promised land. Or, yeah, I guess you could say that. But they're back to Jerusalem, Judea, and they're building the temple. It's not done. So as they think about this, what are they doing? They are rebuilding, in essence, the nation of Israel. And they're praying that more will come and join them that have been scattered. And scriptures speak of that very thing taking place over time, not all at once. When you think of the building of the nation, this makes a little more sense that something's going to be banished from what? However, it still doesn't quite fit that time frame. So go with me a little further. He says, every perjurer should be expelled according to that side of it. Verse 4, I will send out the curse. Hasn't happened yet, says the Lord of hosts. It shall enter the house of the thief and the house of the one who swears falsely by my name. Only those who are in Israel, right? It's not what he said. You see what I mean? Their perspective would have been pretty narrow. But God is talking about something greater. Notice he says here, it shall remain in the midst of his house and consume it with its timber and stones. So you've got the setting, you've got the vision, and you've got this interpretation. The severity of it, you could say, is this expulsion. They're going to be banished from something, all right? The totality is every house where there's somebody that's a thief and a liar is going to experience this. When would something like that take place? I will say, I believe scripturally it hasn't happened yet. And in fact, as you study other both prophecies and then also Old Testament prophecies and also New Testament truths such as what you see in Matthew and what you see in Revelation, there's a time coming where this is going to happen. It's not actually the tribulation. The judgment comes then. But then what we find is before they gather into the millennial kingdom, those who are living through the tribulation still on earth and have accepted Christ for who he is, they're going to go in. The returning saints are going to go in. And the resurrected saints, Hebrew saints, those who believed that God was going to send a redeemer like Abraham, they're going to go in. But guess what? Those individuals that came in their human bodies, they're going to have kids. And guess what those kids are going to still have? Just like they do, a sin nature. The time in which I believe this is going to actually happen is in the millennial kingdom. It speaks of righteousness, but it also, in those prophecies, speaks of judgment that's going to go out from the righteous king, Jesus Christ. I believe that's what's going to fit the best. But here's why. So why give it to Israel then? Why show it to them then? Because again, it's a promise that God is holy and just. Not only is he just against sin, he is holy with keeping his word. What he has promised them, he will do. Now, if you wonder if Zechariah is scratching his head on this one, come with me to the next one. Still here in chapter 5, verse 5. Then the angel who talked with me came out and said to me, look, can you imagine? He's trying to take all this in. Here comes this angel again, and look what he says. Lift your eyes now and see what this is that goes forth. Okay, now he looks up. So I asked, what is it? All right. And he said, the angel said, it is a basket that is going forth. So now you got, instead of a flying scroll, you got a flying basket. The word used, the Hebrew word used here for basket, is a common word they use, ephah, to gather an ephah of something. Scholars looking back have said they could be anywhere from 5 to 10 gallons. All right, you know what a 5-gallon bucket looks like, right? Well, double that. Now you got a 10-gallon bucket. It actually makes me think of, and I've seen this a few places, but you'll find people that are carrying a pack on their back. Has anybody here been ice fishing? Nobody? I know you have. You got to raise your hand. Oh, man. Guess what? When we went to Maine, so I used to... The route that Gary used to run, I would ride by on the school bus. Then I would drive by going to work on Route 11, and I'd pass Gooddale Lake. Anybody know where Gooddale Lake is? It's the one that's connected to Little York, all right? It's a great place to kayak and go in and fish, especially if you've allowed the vegetation to grow. Just ask my wife and Becca. I was taking them in. I was all excited, and we got in there, and we literally had to pull our way back out. We got stuck on the vegetation. It was so bad. Anyways, this lake, I'd go by in the winter, and there'd be a couple guys out there pretty regularly, and they'd be out there, some of them with no shanty. They'd just be out there with a hole there, and they're sitting on a stool, and they've got their jig and pole. And it's like 20 degrees. And I was like, this is nuts. I'm never doing that. I love fishing. I'm never doing that. Went to Maine, whole different world. You go out there, They've got 5 holes per person. So they got this auger going, wah, 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 and he's got 5 holes per person. You get out there, they set tip-ups up. You might jig, you might just use these tip-ups. And guess where you go while you wait? Back to shore around this blazing fire. And I mean, they had every kind of food you could, I mean, it was phenomenal. And that was just friends. That wasn't anything that was, oh man. I'll tell you what, I said, now this is, I can do this. This is cool. So anyways, now think about this idea of how do they get everything out there? Well, they have ice fishing packs. And they're kind of a wicker, I don't know if the wicker is the right word, but sort of. And they're very lightweight yet strong. And you could load that thing up, and then they put it on their shoulders, and they, carefully make their way out to the spot they want to do. And these ice packs are like this. It is something you could carry that was pretty sizable. Not usually the size, though, that you could put a woman inside. Look at the next verse. He says here, this is their, what is it? And he said, the basket going forth. He also said, this is their resemblance throughout the earth. NIV, I think it is, says appearance. One of the commentators mentioned that, or I probably wouldn't know, but it's the picture. There's something being pictured here. All right, now 7. Here is a lead disc lifted up. Picture a lid lifted up. Picture a lid lifted up. This is not lead. This is not my wife. She'd like to know whose it is because somebody's missing a really nice lid that actually locks in place. So she said you got to ask. So if you have a lid home that should have these and it doesn't, let Af know. But just picture this lid is a lead disc that's being lifted up. All right. Then he says here. 7, here is a lead disc lifted up, and this is a woman sitting inside the basket. Then it says, then he said, this is wickedness. There you have it. The Bible says all women are wicked. No, what's he saying? Why would they say this? Do you know there's actually a very simple explanation? The word for wickedness used there in the Hebrew is in the feminine. It's probably that simple, okay? So guys, I know you were hoping, but yeah, it's not it. Then he said, this is wickedness, and he thrust her down into the basket and threw the lead cover over its mouth. You just got done seeing a flying scroll. That's tame compared to this one. And yet this is from God. And so you're trying to figure out what is this all about? And it's a picture, as mentioned earlier there. He says, this is their resemblance throughout the earth. Well, who's the there? That's Their. Notice in verse 9. Then I raised my eyes and looked, and there were 2 women coming with the wind in their wings. For they had wings like the wings of a stork, and they lifted up the basket between earth and heaven. So I said to the angel who talked with me, where are they carrying the basket? And he said to me, to build a house for it in the land of Shinar. When it is ready, the basket will be set there on its base. Where's the land of Shinar? Babylon, where they just came from. Why? Why all this? So you've got this woman that's picturing wickedness in a basket with a lead lid holding it down, and 2 women with wings are now flying this basket back to Babylon to be put on a base. What does that imply? You know what a base is, what they mean? Think about for a moment Nebuchadnezzar's image. Do you remember how high it was? Was it 90 feet? And it was only like 15 feet wide or something? Okay? And we just kind of look at it going, wow, how in the world? Some of that total height was likely the base. How many have visited the Statue of Liberty? How many here have actually seen it? Okay. Even if you've just seen pictures, you'll notice that there's a base that is quite tall. You go inside, you got to go up this base, then you get inside the Statue of Liberty and you walk up those winding steps that, by the way, even my foot doesn't fit all the way on. It's really kind of interesting. And then you get up there and you're looking out the window. It's actually really cool. And you used to be able to go up in the torch, believe it or not. Haven't been able to for a long time, but just kind of interesting. But when you think about it, that pedestal is pretty big. I believe what's being talked about here is this wickedness is being brought back to a base, a pedestal, where it's going to be worshipped. If you try to picture in that day something that fits, it just doesn't quite add up. The whole pedestal or the image of Nebuchadnezzar is gone. That's already done. It might still be there, but this is talking about something that's yet to come. But they would have that in their mind as they thought about this. Now, here's the other thing about this Babylon, the land of Shinar. Where do we find one of the first times recorded where people gathered together and built in such a way architecturally so they could reach up to heaven, and yet they wanted nothing to do with God? Babel, which is where? Wow. Oh, but it doesn't end there. Turn back to Revelation for a minute. We'll talk about this more in our evening services study there of Revelation, but turn back to 17. Listen to this. Then one of the seven angels, verse 1, who had the seven bowls, come and talked with me, saying to me, "Come, I will show you the judgment of the great harlot, who sits on many waters, with whom the kings of the earth committed fornication, and the inhabitants of the earth were made drunk with the wine of her fornication. So he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sitting on a scarlet beast, which was full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. The woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet, and adorned with gold and precious stones and pearls, having in her hand a golden cup full of abominations and the filthiness of her fornication. And on her forehead a name was written, Mystery, the Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and of the abominations of the earth. I saw the woman drunk with the blood of the saints and with the blood of the martyrs of Jesus. And when I saw her, I marveled with great amazement." When we get there, we'll talk more about that in our study, but there's going to be a chief city economically, religiously, but it's going to be false religion. And it is going to be one that the whole world just comes to, and they're doing their trade and commerce and all these things. But there's also very much so a strong tenor of false religion. In fact, literally the people of Israel and the saints, those who believe in Christ, even Gentiles, are literally going to be killed there. Now, those who say automatically, well, it's Rome rebuilt. Could be. But there's enough evidence to say that this very well might be Babylon again. And interestingly, you know who's going to destroy it? Antichrist. It's like it's competition. He comes out of that, it appears. He becomes great. By that I don't mean good. Powerful. And then eventually, after he breaks the covenant with Israel and moves on, you've got the false prophet getting everybody to worship him as a god. He then turns his attention on this false religion as almost competition and destroys it. You read through this and you're going, oh my word. None of the people in Israel have any inkling of that yet. They don't have revelation yet, but they've got the writings of many of the prophets. They've got many prophecies about a Messiah and a messianic kingdom. They understand that. They already have seen how they, Israel, were removed from the land and taken to Babylon because of their sin. Now they're seeing a picture of this woman, wickedness, being carried off to Babylon. And it follows the flying scroll vision. This again has to do with the idea of sin being removed. But again, it's going to be worshipped there in Shinar. It is possible that what you're seeing is again a preview of how Israel during the tribulation, they are just as a nation against Christ. Thankfully, exceptions. There are Hebrews, praise the Lord, that have accepted Jesus Christ as their Savior. And those Jews are part of the saints because they're followers of Christ. All right? But in general, the nation has, even at the time of the tribulation, is still rejecting Christ. They're being helped by the Antichrist, who nobody knows is the Antichrist. There's a treaty made. They're able to rebuild their temple. All this stuff is going on. And then, boom. You have, before they even get to the breaking of the covenant, you have these judgments that are coming. And they're obviously from God. Then you have the breaking of the covenant and everything excels. And it's like, oh man, it's getting worse and worse. And so you find during that tribulation time, there are Jews that recognize finally Jesus Christ is the Messiah. Some of them will probably be listening to part of the 144,000, not Jehovah's Witnesses. Sorry. They are witnesses that are sent, are sealed by God to go around the earth talking of Christ. They will be, in a sense, what would you call it? Not able to be killed until their time is up. And then they'll be martyred. Most likely, because they're speaking for Christ. But until their job is done, they're going to be there and they're going to be witnessing. Now, what's interesting about all of this is for the people then and there, this is a reminder. A reminder of what? I need a reader as we wrap up today. Amos 8:5. Would somebody look that one up and read it? Amos 8:5. I got to wake you up. Okay, Trevor. Nehemiah 5. I'm going to have you turn there in just a moment. And then a reader, Malachi 3:8 through 9. Who will read Malachi 3:8 through 9? Last book of the Old Testament, Malachi. Malachi 3:8 through 9. Who will take that? Half? Okay. All right, Trevor, when you have it, go ahead.
Amos what?
Amos 8:5.
Saying, when will the new moon be gone, that we may sell corn, and the Sabbath, that we may set forth wheat, making the ephah small and the shekel great, and the falsifying the balance by deceit.
So I took a verse right in the middle of a whole section there. Amos is talking about those things they were doing which were wrong. They were lying about the size of the ephah. They were changing measurements to get more profit. All right? Malachi 3:8 through 9.
Will a man rob God? Yet you have robbed me. But you say, in what way have you robbed you? In tithes and offerings? You are cursed with a curse, for you have robbed me, even this whole nation.
They stopped giving their tithes. They stopped doing what they were supposed to be doing. We're going to see that in the next chapter, I believe it is. So we'll be getting to that. Nehemiah 5, that's actually, if you were to look at 1 through 13, you see a whole list of things that they were doing already. So what I'm doing is showing you again, as these visions come, and Zechariah tells the people about these visions, they're not saying, oh, what sin? They're recognizing, oh, yeah, this stuff's going on now. Haggai, Malachi, Zechariah have all talked about this. Ezra has talked about this. Nehemiah has talked about this. This is not new. Again, Nehemiah comes a little bit later after Zechariah, so I shouldn't confuse that issue. So what we see today in chapter 5 here, we see two visions that to us probably don't make a lot of sense without the context, the rest of it being added in. But those visions are going to be fulfilled in the time we know as the Revelation, the end times, tribulation, millennial kingdom, so on. That's when we're going to see what makes the most sense as far as fulfilling these particular prophecies. What did it mean for them right then? Same thing it probably ought to mean for us today. Sin is abhorrent to God. Sin brings consequences. And we need to be doing what we can to try to confess that sin, turn away from that sin, replace it with something godly. Do our best to try to do what we know is right today. Yeah, they heard the stories. I'm sure they said, well, why would he have that? The scroll, the ephah, the basket with a woman. But then as they begin to talk about it, I don't think there was a whole lot of doubt what God was referring to. So my encouragement to you today is look at those two visions. They were given to Israel for a reason. But look at the timeless principles that are in there. And that is that God is holy, that we are sinners, that we need intercession. And because we're believers in Christ, those who are, we have free access to confess our sins, be forgiven, and literally commune with our Father. So, all right, I got to close. You're going to hear a little more of this in our study in Nehemiah and then even in our study in Revelation tonight. Lord, thank you again for who you are, for what you give us, even sometimes when it's a little hard to understand. Thank you for having the context of a written word to compare these other passages with. In Jesus' name, amen.